Hi! So we're already halfway through March, and just recently daylight savings time happened. So the sun is setting later, the birds are coming out, and next week officially marks the first day of spring. It's thankfully been warming up quite a bit where I live, so I feel now is finally the time to talk about spring fashion, more specifically spring trends for 2025. If you haven't seen one of my trend videos before, typically what I do is I like to curate my own list of trends, and I sort of gather, curate images into a gigantic Pinterest board, not just centering around clothes and beauty, but photography, other things I'm interested in right now. And typically, what I like to do is kind of categorize it into different trends, and then I'll go through each of those, show you tons of inspo pics. And of course, as always, that Pinterest board will be linked in the description below. So for this season's trends list, I kind of came up with an overarching concept, but we'll break it down and go into each specific trend and piece of it. But we're sort of going with this overarching theme titled Fairy Garden Rainbow Tea Party. That's sort of the overall concept I put together. But like I said, we're going to break each section down and go into it more specifically about what I mean and what kind of things are trending for me this spring. So, Fairy Garden Rainbow Tea Party. The first part of that is obviously fairy. And I think fairy can mean something different to you depending what your preferences are. But for me, I think glitter, sparkles, sequins, lots of shiny details, knickknacks and trinkets, things you would find scattered throughout the woods, little pieces of nature like pine cones and acorns, random bits and bobs like keys, buttons. I think dainty, delicate, whimsical, of course. I think of a lot of bright, happy colors, a lot of colors that are naturally occurring in nature. So think pink flowers, green grass. The more magical, the better. So you can incorporate things like butterflies and overall just the fun, really pretty, exciting parts of spring, like flowers popping up out of the ground, sort of playing around with the concept of spring fairies, like wherever you go, there spring follows. So leaves are starting to pop up on trees, little buds and plants appearing here and there, and all around kind of playing with the idea like you live in the woods or a garden, you reside in a tree or a plant of some sort. The colors, as I mentioned, pink, blues, greens, pretty shades of purple. For hair, I'm loving things that are kind of piecey and wild and a bit organic looking, but also incorporate little details like accessories, braids, various hair colors, things like that. I think incorporating plants and flowers into your hairstyle is really fun as well. And you can also, of course, carry that into your makeup. So for makeup, again, I'm thinking sparkly, glittery, fun, fantasy, airy types of looks. You can incorporate lots of florals, really floaty pieces like lingerie. Top I'm wearing kind of encapsulates that feeling, but all around mixing all of these details together into sort of a fun, mischievous, playful sort of vibe with obviously a heavy inspiration and emphasis on nature. But I think earthy colors really work in this too. I've really been enjoying colors like brown and navy, even gray here and there. And of course, you can always mix and match all of these things. But all in all, really playing around with the idea that you're a little spring fairy here to, spread seeds and blossom flowers too. And all around just a sparkly, fantasy, whimsical, playful sort of look. I'm always kind of into that, but I really like the idea of exaggerating it and really matching the tone of the seasons that we're in. So fairy, that is our first trend. Now for the next one, we have garden. And again, we're really playing around with nature inspiration. Spring is the time for planting seeds, metaphorically and literally. So think quite literally like you're in the garden. I'm a pretty outdoorsy person. I like to spend a lot of time outside. So I think incorporating things that can get dirty is really fun. Think rain boots or some kind of shoe you can stomp around in. Dirt and paint covered overalls, bucket hats, sun hats. I've been seeing a lot of people style aprons and things like that as well. So I think that would be a fun thing to incorporate, like some sort of little tool belt. You can accessorize with different garden tools and other fun little knickknacks and keychains. Again, florals, heavy inspiration with florals. Yes, it's spring, so flowers are on my mind. But again, I just feel so inspired and happy and uplifted seeing those kinds of things after a cold, dark winter, like the daffodils appearing across the street. I've been seeing all sorts of little things pop up, and it just makes me want to dress more alive and kind of be one with my setting. I love incorporating this idea into makeup as well, sort of beauty looks and different eye makeup looks that look like petals themselves. You can even incorporate literal petals by gluing them on your face or little details like that. And while beautiful, bright colors and pastels can be incorporated with within this trend. I am also thinking of neutrals, things that remind me of the earth, of dirt, being in the garden quite literally. I'm thinking of different insects. We mentioned butterflies, but also things like ladybugs, praying mantises, grasshoppers. As I'm going to repeat quite a lot, I like taking inspiration from just the world and things that are happening around me. So incorporating those things, whether it's a little decal on your nail or a brooch or a pin, I think those little playful seasonal touches are always really fun to incorporate in your outfits and beauty looks. All around, this particular trend centers around being wearable, being able to be outside for prolonged periods of time and do actual activities like hiking, playing in the dirt, gardening, still incorporating that fun, fantasy, whimsical touch, of course. But all around, I'm feeling really drawn to natural colors, natural materials, not only pieces that I can, of course, wear outside, but also pieces that incorporate that feeling of outside. So whether you're the plant itself or the gardener, I'm really enjoying the idea of playing around with just gardens in general as sort of a fashion muse. So that is sort of my second overarching spring trend. My next one is rainbow, and this one is probably the most self-explanatory so far, but think literal rainbows. Probably because of March and St. Patrick's Day, I have that on my mind. Pot of gold, rainbow, four-leaf clover sort of thing. I'm also thinking a lot about rain and just different environmental changes, April showers, spring mayflowers, that sort of thing. But of course, rainbows typically appear after a rainstorm, hence the name rainbow. But I think spring is a fun time to incorporate lots of color, and really you can get away with putting it absolutely everywhere this time of year, which I like to dress colorfully for the most part anyways. But there's just something about spring and the earth returning to life that really makes me want to break out all my colorful pieces and throw them all together. As always, I'm loving bright, colorful fantasy hair. I'm loving whimsical, glittery, experimental makeup. I love fun, funky patterns like stripes and polka dots, and so incorporating color into that is really fun. I always appreciate a nice button detail, but lately I've been loving like really funky, whimsical, colorful buttons on everything. I have some DIY projects in mind that I want to give a try, but something like switching out a few of your buttons for some colorful ones I think is an easy thing to do. All around, I'm just feeling myself being more gravitated towards colors that are bright, full of life, happy, but I'm also loving different shades that are maybe not included, like pink, different kinds of indigos. In particular, I'm loving like cobalt blue right now, and I've also been loving like a really chartreusey kind of green, not quite brat green, but a little bit earthier. Think like leaves or caterpillars, that sort of thing. Think very hungry caterpillar core. That's sort of what comes to mind for this particular trend. But all around, I want to breathe lots of life and color, boldness, fun prints, and those other sorts of aspects into my style right now. After the cold, dreary winter, I'm just really craving that. And so that's something I plan to style a lot of this spring, lots of rainbow colored outfits. Now, our last trend, and of course, wrapping up Fairy Garden Rainbow Tea Party is a tea party. But I almost always have some sort of Alice in Wonderland type of category in these videos. But I thought we'd get a little bit more specific today, at least try to, and kind of get into the theme of tea party. So we established that I'm loving lots of color right now, but I still am really into different light neutral shades, different browns and grays. I love white and cream, but I've been particularly loving those shades applied to more Victorian aesthetics, more whimsical kind of details, puff sleeves, lace, bubble skirts, corsets, tights, and bobby socks. Of course, you can bring colorful elements into this concept. For me, I think of little desserts and cakes and things like that you would have at a tea party. Even tea sets themselves can be a fun source of inspiration. Beautiful dishware and pottery, that kind of thing. And I mentioned Alice in Wonderland, kind of always something that is inspiring me and giving me ideas. But I, of course, think of bunnies, I think of clocks, I think of gardens and roses and mazes, and I definitely think more classic, formal wear, but I still think it's fun to incorporate fun patterns like stripes. I also mentioned polka dots as well, which are a huge trend this whole year. Everybody's going polka dot crazy, including myself, so that's something fun to incorporate. I'm thinking bows and ruffles juxtaposed with edgy details like a Victorian witchy kind of style boot or garter belts, that sort of thing. I'm loving buttons, as I mentioned, so anywhere you can incorporate that. But all around, I would describe tea party as sort of a dainty, slightly more dressed up sort of look that feels classic and beautiful, but also like you simultaneously stumbled out of some sort of fantasy book or children's book. So that essentially summarizes everything Fairy Garden Rainbow Tea Party. As always, I try to incorporate a bit of realism, a bit of fantasy and play, a little bit of formal and experimentation in there as well. So hopefully you got lots of style ideas and enjoyed this video. I hope you're as excited for spring as I am. Definitely need a sense of hope with everything going on in the world right now. But it's always nice to get lost in fantasy and play, in fashion, and of course outside. So that about sums up everything I have to say today. I would love to hear what you were excited and planning to wear this spring. Let me know if this video gave you any ideas. Liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, all that stuff really helps out the channel. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!